Evening. Welcome into Inside Texas Football. I'm rocking a Garfield Las Vegas shirt. You know, people can hate on me recording these shows from my little brother's room at my parents' house, but can you show up to work in a Garfield shirt in your shorts and sit in a nice eggshell chair? I don't think so. So you always got to look for the positive, folks. And that's what we're going to do today, because there are some negative stories out there, depending on how you view things about no spring game and change like that. And we've got a lot of great news as well, with a new running backs coach coming in. And then finally, I'm going to get into my SEC power rankings of programs in the SEC right now. But first, obviously, we're going to start with the big news, the fact that there is no spring game. First, you got to get a look at this Garfield shirt. It's Garfield goes to Vegas. It says, "Never trust a lying cat." And cats, I don't trust cats. Cats are like snakes with fur. At least that's what Polly Walnut says from The Sopranos. And if you hadn't seen The Sopranos, turn off this show and please go watch The Sopranos. You shouldn't even be watching this show if you haven't seen The Sopranos. But cats are snakes with fur. I mean, what do cats even do? I'm not, as much as I'm a Kentucky fan with that ball right there, cats, not for me. I'm more of a dog person or a Longhorn person, honestly. But Garfield, he's okay in my book. I like this shirt. I picked it up from a thrift store on Guadalupe, down on UT's West Campus. They have the best thrift stores: Buffalo Exchange, Lo-Fi. All those stores down there are great. I got this Garfield shirt. Had to rock it. I mean, you couldn't do that if I was in a studio. That's the great thing about recording from home, right? I can rock the Garfield shirt, sitting here with a Lego Star Wars book as my mic stand. We're rolling, baby. We're locked and loaded. But let's get into the spring game. Big news tonight. More than just me wearing a Garfield shirt. We've got big news, guys. Texas canceled their spring game. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. Texas is not having a spring game. They're following suit of Nebraska started this trend. Matt Rule, former Baylor Bear, Matt Rule. They're following our old rivals, Nebraska. So they were the first to do so because of tampering, right? And that's what we talked about, is that as college football looks to follow the NFL, and every single step of the way, it looks at this point, they're going to start doing NFL-like things, and that's OTAs, that's spring practices, right? Instead of a spring game for the public that was like fun in the sun. Felt like going to a baseball game at the park almost. I love spring games personally because it's just casual, relaxed. There's no real stakes. You get to watch the players. But the problem is, who else is watching the players? Other teams. You're scouting the players and thinking, who's this guy? But now, in this day and age, everything's online. People go and they say, "Oh, who's this second string receiver at Texas? Let's offer him to come play at Texas Tech," or whatever it may be, right? Nebraska was having that problem. They said last year after the spring game, people started offering their players NIL money and whatnot. And so what did Matt Rule think? Well, this isn't good for the program. People come in and poach. They're like vultures now. It's the Wild West. You're out in the desert, and any player, whether they're in the portal or not, is, that they're prey. They're prey. And these other teams are they're vulturing in. Oh, you know what? We think you're actually worth for $150,000. They're only paying you $75,000. Well, why don't you come on over here to blank state, to blank tech, whatever, right? Or come to this beach and play football. We've heard allegations of certain teams tampering, right? And they throw lump sums at these young kids. What are you to do if you're a Texas or a Nebraska or these bigger programs that have big spring games that everybody's got their eyes on, right? It hurts me because I'm a college football traditionalist. As young as I may be, I'm a college football traditionalist. Now, traditionalist for me is, the era of the BCS championship and the 2000s and the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl before it became the VRB Fiesta Bowl. That is my traditional college football that I know. 2000s might not seem that long ago for some of you, but I was a wee lad in the 2000s. And, I just like things the way they are. Humans don't like change. It's our human nature. I don't like change. I don't like getting rid of spring games. I don't like college football playoff expansion. But, a lot of you probably have different opinions. So that's why this is a call-in show, right? This is why it's on the horn, baby. We want you on the horn. We want to hear you call in. It's double entendre. It means Longhorns, also means it's on the horn. You're on the phone, right? That's the greatness of this show name, right? I just come up, I'm throwing ideas like that on the wall, and sometimes they stick. And yeah, so call in if you have any sort of opinions or feel any which way about this. I saw people saying they actually liked it when I posted this graphic, following the trend of our great friends at the beautiful On3. I mean, they're just on a tear. They posted a great one today of Carson Beck and his girlfriend. Apologies to him, actually. He did get his car stolen, but they posted a great graphic of it. So I did the one-word graphic here: breaking Arch Manning in a spring game jersey. Of course, people say see breaking, and they see Arch Manning and they freak out. I was talking to my friend Johnny Wynn, under 60 Flicks, before in the pre-show. He's a regular. He calls in all the time. But we were talking, and he said I got him with that. He knew what I was doing. He clicked on it and was like, "What's going on with Arch?" And it was just breaking. Sark's doing no spring game. Had to follow our bosses, our friends up at On3. They've been great with those one-word graphics. I saw some people comment on it like, "Oh, I thought something happened to Arch." I just picked a picture of Arch from the spring game because we know Arch. That's going to get the most engagement, right, baby? I'm in the business of social media. Got to put Arch on the screen whenever you can. Got to write his name out whenever you can, right? But so I saw some people saying they're fine with this. They were commenting on Instagram like, "Oh, it's good, right? You don't want injuries." And for those who didn't see, I put a video up on the Instagram as well. I can't show the video, unfortunately. Texas Homer told me that's one thing I don't know. I'm new. I'm a rookie. I'm new to this game of YouTube. You can't put anything up, music, videos, anything from any sort of licensing. They'll strike you down. But the video was Sark in his interview with this lady from NFL Network, I believe. And so he basically talked about how the wear and tear now. The college football season is now turned into an NFL season. And so he told her, like, "Hey, we played 30 games in the last 2 years," which is nuts. I mean, just absurd when you think about it. Imagine telling that to your grandpa that, yeah, your Texas Longhorns are going to play 30 games in 2 seasons. They used to play 30 games in 3 seasons. But I digress, right? We've had so much change so fast. I feel like I'm still in 2019. And we've now jumped from 4 to 12 teams to pretty soon 14 teams to 16 teams and no spring games. Imagine telling a younger self there's no spring games. But just another long list of changes in college football. But so he told her, like, "Hey, well, we've played 30 games in the last 2 years," which, I mean, that is insane wear and tear, right? For these young guys, they don't have NFL bodies. A lot of them, he talked about how they're bringing in a whole new crop of young guys who you've got to get it assimilated and in routines and, get them on a college schedule and used to the college life and understanding how to practice and prepare as a college player, right? And you're trying to transition them into college football and it being a part of the Texas culture and being a part of the Texas Longhorns program. And then you're going to prepare them for a spring game that's really kind of meaningless. A lot of them are early enrollees. They don't really have their footing yet. So he just said, I can get more. I can optimize my time basically with spring practices, with OTA style stuff, and then build their way up to scrimmages. So that was kind of his point. And like I said, Nebraska started this. And I don't know if you guys saw, but USC and Ohio State are now all doing this. They're all canceling their spring games, right? And so this is just another domino to fall. Basically, whenever one of these new things happens or a new trend happens, it's always the first to do it, and then before you know it, it becomes the norm, right? Anytime in college football or in life in general, when someone, progressive, forward-thinking, it starts out as something small, and it's like, hey, I'm thinking maybe we won't have a spring game. Before you know it, Nebraska doesn't do it. Texas is talking about it 2 weeks ago, and now they've fully canceled it, right? And this is just another part of the progression of just straight up becoming the NFL at this point. We're just becoming the NFL, right? I personally don't like this. I don't think the spring game really is that much of a negative. Instill more rules on transfer portal, and tampering. Seriously punish people for tampering. There's legit rules in the NFL, certain violations you cannot go against, and regulations that you have to follow or you'll get struck down. Start delving out fines for people that tamper in spring games, or just don't air your spring game. Have a tighter security on it in terms of, not allowing any Connor Stallions into the stadium in spring games. I mean, I would love the spring game because it's just fun for everybody. We saw Ole Miss, for example, did a kind of a carnival style one last spring. Just they didn't want to play one but they still did something for the fans. As long as you're doing something for the fans, I think it matters the most. But we're seeing Sark's thinking of moving towards like private OTAs, workouts that, you know, the media has limited windows for, and then people just can't scout players. I mean, that's the world we're in. And there's such lawlessness running amok in college football that we now are just, you have to not want anybody look at your players or watch them practice or watch them scrimmage. But yeah, so Sark said, you know, they want to move towards just spring practices and then build their way up to scrimmages. And there's no start date for that yet, but that's what they're going to do this year. There will just be spring practices, and we'll probably be there. There'll be limited access. It's just a shame because last year was so fun, right? Manning balled out. Arch threw for like, what was it? Like 360 yards, 3 TDs, had a great game. Trey Owens balled out too in his first spring game. So it's fun for the whole family. It's free. You know, everybody gets a nice tan, and Texas weather's not beating down on you yet. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they do. It's a bummer. It's just another change in college football. But that's the world we live in, right? The one constant in life is change. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and bring in our first caller here, a regular, an Ole Miss fan. I just talked about them and their spring game that they did last year. Gerald Hopkins, how you doing? You're on the horn.
This is good. How are you, James?
I'm great, man. What do you got for us today?
Yeah. Well, you know, you keep having these jackasses in suits and ties running the show. This is the result you're going to get. Either people are not going to do it and go do workouts and OTAs behind closed doors, or, I mean, at least I guess, you know, with Kiffin, it's like fun, little dunk contest, dodgeball here. I'm sure all the kiddos love that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's just that this is what happens when you get these people that are running it. They don't get regulations set in place. They move too fast. They expand money now. Everything's as quick as you can make it, and there's no regulations behind it. And then they'll flip it and be like, oh, well, it's on the schools to up their security and all that. No, it should be up to you as the NCAA, as the entity of the NCAA, to get y'all's stuff together, so then schools don't have to turn around and completely change how they do everything and make an entire new landscape. Like, if you're going to, like, we don't even know what we're doing right now, and they're already talking about expanding to 14, 16 teams. Like what you were saying, is total lawlessness. There's just nobody knows what to do. The people at the top don't know what to do, so people below them don't know what to do. And then, like, this is what you get. Private OTAs, dodgeball, dunk contests. Yeah, that's fun or whatever, but it's like, yeah, I would like to see, like, you know, Arch Manning, or in our case, like Austin Simmons. I'd like to see him throw the ball against an actual defense instead of watching him throw a dodgeball at our 380-pound defensive tackle. Like, I mean, come on now.
Yeah, as fun as that is, and we know Kiffin will have fun with it. Hopefully, Sark will come up with something creative that at least engages the fans. But I feel like
that's
is
what
just,
you got to do. Get the fans at least engaged, because you can't just totally shut down the show like that. That's a serious bummer. Like, I feel like a lot of kids like going to the spring game. You know, they get to go watch the game, hang out with their buddies in the stands and whatnot. Like, that part shouldn't go away. And if that does, then the NCAA is really just doing that much worse of a job.
yeah, and I think it's just another thing where their lack of preparation and structure it hurts the fans. That's what, like, it hurts the fans because the NCAA doesn't have super good tampering regulations, and players were. I mean, Matt Rule said they had an actual problem with people watching their spring game and then would go in and be like, all right, we'll give you X amount of dollars. You got to leave Nebraska. And then that would actually lead to them losing roster depth, right? So, I mean, and then because the NCAA poorly plans and Nebraska's just looking out for themselves, and now Sark is just looking out for themselves, USC, Ohio State, and then multiple others that will follow. But the person who bites the bullet, or the people who bite the bullet, is ultimately the fans. Fans enjoy a free show. You get to go into DKR for free, and, you know, enjoy, you know, watching the next generation of talent, whether, you know, Ole Miss, Texas, whoever. You get to see who your next quarterback is, how they play against at least a legitimate defense. You know, these are SEC defenses. You know, you're playing against other talented defenses. You get to see them like in a live practice setting that's not just drills, and see maybe it means only so much, but it's still real live action. And it's just a shame. Like it's a historical event. It's something that we've been doing for decades. And yeah, I mean, I'm sad to see it go. I know a lot of people are fine with it because of injuries and whatnot and safety and all that. But
I think it just gets me fired up because the people that are not getting the regulation, they don't care about your regular fan or a fan like you or a fan like me. They just care about dollar signs. That's what all this is about and why this is all, frankly, just going down burning. They don't care about the fans. Get people in there who understand that the fans make college football, not dudes in suits. You get back to that, we'll see some real change.
Yes, sir. Gerald Hopkins getting up on his soapbox. Appreciate you always calling in.
I'll see you.
Yeah, and Victor, that was the main reason cited by Nebraska, Matt Rule, was that tampering was an issue, that people were butting in, scouting their players, and then contacting them and offering them NIL deals and stuff like that, and making it harder for programs and coaches to do their job because, now in this new era, you're just worried about coaching, putting the best guy out on the field, developing, whatnot. And then you've got to worry about outside noise, people coming in, telling the kid he's worth X amount of dollars when you guys are only able to give him this much, whatever it may be, right? Sark didn't cite tampering, but Matt Rule did. Sark just talked about the physicality and the OTAs and stuff like that. He might just not want to say that. I'm sure it's a factor. I'm sure it is a factor. I mean, that the fact that Matt Rule started at Nebraska and said that tampering was a problem and the transfer portal was the main problem, leads me to believe that's the reason others are doing it. And Sark just said stuff that had to do with the fact that they played 30 games and whatnot. But they played 14 games last year. It used to be a 15-game schedule. Now it's a 16-game schedule if you go all the way. Nebraska's not playing a 16-game schedule. USC's not playing a 16-game schedule. Why'd they cancel it, right? I think there's a reason. Sark sees the trends and he knows where the wind's blowing and goes from there. Yeah, I mean, he just goes from there. I'm sad that we're canceling the spring game because, your son enjoys going to it. My little brother's at UT right now. He loves going to it. It's fun. It's free. I mean, I remember growing up in Austin, just so many people going to the game. I think, it's not really that physical of a game. But yeah, I think typically you're not seeing a lot of injuries in spring games. It's fun for people to watch. You don't touch your quarterbacks. I enjoy the spring games. I wish it was still part of it, but it's just, as we were talking about with our last caller, it's just one of those things that's another change, right? It's just another shift in what college football used to be to what it is now and what it'll be in 5 years when it'll look, virtually, in my projection, just like another NFL, a mini NFL, which is that what we want for the sport? Yes, I know spring games can cause injuries and stuff like that, but it's a part of the college football tradition, man. The fact that you can go and see your players play a full game. It's not a real game. Coaches are on the field. Again, quarterbacks can't be touched. I don't think the injury plague is that bad in spring games. You can look at it historically. It's not really, it's kind of a non-factor in most cases. We're going to bring on our next caller, a regular, Johnny Wynn from Under 60 Flicks on Instagram. He's always got good stuff to say. Johnny, how are you feeling about no spring game? And the tampering allegations and just the physical wear and tear of it, and sort of Sark's explanation for it.
What's going on, James? I appreciate the shout out earlier on in the video. You did get me with that post, man. I'll tell you that much. You did get me. But you know what? I think the main thing about, this post right here, man, I was like, I saw breaking and you see Arch and you're like, oh no, did something happen? Did something happen? But I think the main thing about, this canceling of the spring game is representative of the broader things going on in college football. And I think, when Sark didn't mention it today, but he has said before that he thought that, the spring game would be a casualty of this changing environment in college football. I think we need a commissioner, man. I think you need a commissioner to kind of regulate, the stuff that's going on in college football, whether that be tampering or the NIL and all these things. And, there's no guardrails, right? Like you have, guys transferring in for like millions of dollars. It's like, this is like ridiculous. Like not even NFL guys are getting paid some of that much. some of that money on average. And, with tampering, it's like there's no enforcement of the rules, because there's nobody really there to enforce the rules because the NCAA is just really hands off. So I don't know, man, but I think, it would have been a really good time to go see, some of the guys as they're progressing, but it is kind of just a free advertisement for other programs.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is like, it is like a logistical thing. You get why Sark does it. I understand it. Because it is really just like, if there's no like rules in place preventing you from just coming and being like, yeah, let's go watch. If you're a middle pack program in the SEC Big 12, you're an NC State, you're a Texas Tech, you're a, shout out Baylor, you're a Kentucky, for example. Why wouldn't you go look at the spring game at UT and go, oh, this 4-star, hey, you've been playing at UT for a couple of years and you're, barely getting reps. You're a solid receiver. You're not going to play there. And also they undervalue you. You just start getting in these kids' ears and throwing them money, figures they have yet to hear in their life. And they're 19, 20. And they're like, oh, you'll give me how much? It really is just unfortunate that it doesn't really have to do so much with these coaches or these programs. It's just more so the NCAA and the fact that it seems like they ushered in NIL with zero preparation. They were just sort of like, all right, yeah, now we'll pay the players. And everyone was like, yeah, we agree. They should be paid. And then it just went into this world. And like, good point with the NFL. Like a lot of these guys now can get plucked. You can't even do that in the NFL because at least they sign in for, it's a 2+1, it's a 3, it's a 4-year deal, whatever it may be. Now it's just like, you can get these guys whenever you want. Mercenaries. We've seen Julian Sane, for example, was at Alabama. He transferred. Early enrollees are now transferring. Kids who technically still should be in their spring semester of high school, senior year, have early enrolled and then decided, yeah, I've been here for a month, I'm going to transfer before they've even technically like reached the age of being in college. It's just so bizarre to me, at least.
Yeah, and that's why I think you just need a commissioner, you know what I mean? Like there's no rules around any of this stuff. I wish, I think the big thing, I think John's right there. I think the you need to move the spring transfer window. You know what I mean? Or at the very least, I think you should do something for the fans because I know they used to do like autographs and stuff, which is kind of cool. I think you should do like something for them to come out and have a good time. I mean, to wait like how long are we? Like 6-7 months before we get to see the team again is a long time. It's a long cool off. So I wish they'd do something though, man.
Dude, shout out Eddie here. Good point, because the people are like, oh, our players are going to get hurt. CJ Baxter got hurt in practice, guys. If someone's going to get hurt, it's sometimes just an unfortunate, roll of the dice, like drop of the hat. Like you just get dealt a crappy deck of cards sometimes. Unfortunately, you might just get hurt in practice. It's BS. It's unfair, but life is not fair. How do you handle adversity, right? The spring game, I think it's good to get a simulation of real game action, especially when you are starting with August 30th at Ohio State and you have no preseason. I mean, if we're moving towards an NFL style format, what if they bring in the preseason? Because that's the thing with the NFL plays 17 plus 3 preseason games. Or did they bump it down to 3 preseason games, or is it still 4?
I'm not sure about that. I don't follow the NFL.
Yeah, we don't follow the NFL, guys. That's why we're here at Inside Texas. That's why we're talking about college football on February 20th, because we are real ones, and the NFL is that's a casuals game in my opinion. But like the NFL still has a preseason. What about injuries, right? And I just think it's good. Like the spring game, injuries happen in practice. Injuries happen in anything. I mean, Victor, nobody can put it better than what Victor just said here.
Sum it up in 2 words, man. Sum it up in 2 words.
But the NFL, like, if we're really saying it's about protection and stuff like that, I don't think that is ultimately what these institutions are doing, in all honesty. The NFL obviously doesn't care about protecting their players. They added an extra game. They still have preseason games. College football not having spring games is most likely because of tampering. If we're being totally honest, it's most likely because of tampering and transfer portal issues. But yeah, I really like the point that was brought up earlier from Eddie, though. That just the fact that if you're going to just look at it through that lens, like players can always get hurt. I think this starts to lead down the path of like, oh, well, this guy's already sit out bowl games because everything other than the playoff is a meaningless bowl game. And then you start to be like, well, meaningless regular season games. I heard people putting that out on ESPN. Joey Galway had an insane take where I don't know if you ever saw that, where he said Curtis Rourke and Indiana should just sit Curtis Rourke against Ohio State because you're just going to make the playoff anyway. And it was just the most absurd thing I'd heard. And that's where we're going. It's just like, well, people can get injured. People can get injured. And then you lead to like an NBA type of bizarreness where you're just having players sit whenever because, well, what if I get hurt and wear and tear and stuff like that? It's like you're playing football. Football is supposed to be hard. You're supposed to face adversity. You might get hurt. You might get knocked on your ass. That's part of the game. You get back up. It's unfair sometimes. It's symbolic of life. You learn how to bounce back. If someone gets hurt in a spring game, CJ Baxter got hurt in a practice. Is he going to tell you, yeah, I shouldn't practice in full pads? No, he's still going to go to practice this fall, and I'm sure he will be fine. Sometimes you get unlucky, but I don't think spring games are putting people in the most volatile positions, in my opinion. I think spring games are mostly harmless. And it's just unfortunate that a lot of college football fans have gotten to the point where they don't want a spring game, something that's such a historic tradition in the sport.
I mean, it's the spring game is like effectively like a glorified practice. Like if you look at some of the spring games from like the mid 2000s, like the pacing and the speed of everything is not the same as what it was last year. Like it's not really that physical. So, and especially with, and I'm not saying he's lying, but I mean, they played a game over a month ago. It's not like they played a game like last week and it's like fatigue, and that's not the main reason why we're here or why we're not playing a game. The reason why is because of the tampering issues. So, I mean, like I said, it's unfortunate, man. But like you were saying, injuries are part of the game. Like if Sark prides himself on a brand of physical and mental toughness, and that's not going to change. So, I don't think that's the reason why we're not playing the spring game.
Yeah, Eddie's just dropping heat after heat in the comments. Yeah, it's the 16-game season. To Johnny's point, by the time the spring game comes around, typically they do that in April. And John said it earlier in the comments. Do it after the spring transfer window, for example. But also the 16-game thing, more than half these players were not on this team. And most of them were not playing on this team. 14 players got sent to the combine. Countless more graduated, right? And Eddie's point, like, you don't have to play Taft or Colin Simmons. Play the guys who need to play. Put Trey Owens in after, like they did last year, right? They put in Quinn Ewers, and after he got the designated amount of snaps from, Sark's perspective, they pulled him out, and then Arch goes and balls out. And then Trey Owens went in and balled out. Let Trey Owens get some run in front of the fans. Trey Owens play against the ones on defense. I mean, it's just, I think spring games they don't really hurt you. It's a net positive, in my opinion, to get out in pads and play sort of a simulated game. But it's fun in the sun. It's like a park backyard game. They're not going super hard, but it is fun and competitive. Burp. Sorry. But it's fun. I hate it. I'm sad because I don't want to go to private OTAs where you don't know what the hell is going on and you get limited viewing windows. And it's just like the NFL. Yeah, it's just like the NFL. Then it's just all rumors. It's like, I'd like to go see Trey Owens throw some bombs. I'd like to go see what our freshman receivers look like. But hey, maybe I'm old school. I'm a little young to be old school, but maybe I'm old school in my view.
Old soul, man. An old soul in a young man's body.
Oh, yeah. I went to Gold's today. I'm definitely a young man's body right here.
Oh, man. He shredded over there, man.
I got to wear this Garfield shirt to contain what's going on underneath here.
Yeah, you got to put them guns away, man. That's you're going to go to jail for flashing out, man,
It's concealed, dude. It's concealed carry right there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm not in California like you, dude. I can conceal.
I know. Yeah, you can't bring those over here, man. If you ever come visit, bro, you got to put those away.
Maybe that's why the men out there are just so lightweight.
It could be something in the water, man.
Y'all definitely have something in the water out in California. And I'm not just saying that.
You having me on, though, brother.
Oh, yeah, of course. Johnny, thanks for calling in as always. Appreciate you. Oh, shout out your Instagram page. You just put.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Follow me on Under 60 Flicks, guys. I dropped a hockey video today. I'm not really that big into hockey, to be honest, but I mean, this new Canada-USA rivalry thing that we got going back on he's got me inspired. So feel free to check it out.
Yeah, guys, Johnny posted a ton of Texas football edits. Great Michael Taft video that went viral that we posted. Thanks to him for letting us do that, and his great Arch Manning edit that he put up. But yeah, so he does, or he did a hockey one today. And, I don't think anybody cares about hockey. He does have a point there, especially down here. But everyone got fired up for USA versus Canada. All those brawls that broke out in the first 3 minutes. That is something I can get behind. The toughness that football is losing, hockey still has it.
Hockey might be more goated than we think, man.
Who doesn't like beating up on our little brothers in the North? They're kind of like Texas A&M as an entire country. So go check out his hockey edit, guys. He put up a fire edit, made me even want to watch hockey.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate you, Johnny. And sorry, guys, getting a little congested. It's freaking 20 degrees out here. I am really struggling with the allergies this month. It has been so cold in Austin. I don't know why. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for the spring game, but they took it away. They're remodeling everything about college football. Seems like everybody's just making changes. Nothing's like the way it used to be. And if you need to make changes, guys, you got to call our friends at Luxe Kitchen and Bath.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
All right. Thank you so much to LC. Sorry, had to fire off some tweets to get more people to join the live. Guys, but while a lot is changing and not all is great in the college football landscape, we lost Tashard Choice. We lost Blake Gideon. But, of course, they've made some new hires, and the next one being Chad Scott. Now they've got a new running backs coach. So this was big news yesterday. Put up another one-word graphic. That's how you got to lure the people in, man. You got to put up these one-word graphics. People click. They don't know what the hell happened. That's why it's so fun, right? That's why we love social media. Get those big clicks. Following the footsteps of our great parent company On3 with those one-word graphics that have been going so viral. But yeah, so just to give a brief rundown about Chad Scott. So he was coaching at West Virginia. Great running backs coach. He had a superb rushing attack over at West Virginia, out in the mountains, the Appalachians, beautiful country road that is West Virginia. He was a great coach out there. And when he showed up to West Virginia, they rushed for only 800 yards. Because you remember they were an air raid team, right? Like West Virginia, when you think Geno Smith, Tavon Austin, and that Dana Holgorsen era. Dana Holgorsen now over at Nebraska as the offensive coordinator. But yeah, so he showed up. They couldn't even rush for 1,000 yards as a team in a season the year before. He got them to run for over 200 yards a game. I love this guy because he actually played at Kentucky. You guys know if you watch the show. My parents went to Kentucky. I'm a huge Big Blue guy. So shout out to Chad Scott for playing football at Kentucky. And he played back in the even rougher years, if that's possible, with Kentucky. He played on like a 2-10 team. So he had a tough time in Kentucky. He ended up coaching there a little bit in 2013 through 15. More dark years for the Cats. They were about 5-7 every year when he coached there. But they actually had a good run game. None of you guys are going to remember the running backs from Kentucky's bad teams, but I do. They had a good rushing attack. He ran a lot of Wildcat at Kentucky, actually, with JoJo Kemp, who, if you know who JoJo Kemp is, I will send you a gift card. But yeah, so he used to coach at Kentucky, so he's got that SEC experience. He knows how to recruit the SEC. But better yet, he was at Texas Tech, right? And so he knows how to recruit Texas as well. He played running back. And another point about West Virginia. So West Virginia was just elite in the rush game. So he was coaching there for the past 4 or 5 years. He had Jaheim White and C.J. Donaldson, of course. C.J. Donaldson's now transferring to Ohio State. Great running back. And then Jaheim White averaged 8 yards a carry. And since 2022, this is a big stat to look at. They have rushed for 140 yards per game or more in 26 out of 28 games. So that is a big change. That hopefully will be a step up for Texas, because you remember Texas stalled out against Arizona State, against Ohio State, against Georgia both times. They couldn't run the damn ball. This guy shows that he has consistency. With West Virginia with lesser talent, I know it's in the Big 12, but hey, we used to play in the Big 12 too, and we weren't necessarily an elite running game most of those years in recent history. But yeah, the fact that they've gone for over 140 in 26 out of 28 games in the last couple seasons, that's elite. Like, that's an elite rushing attack. They were number 1 in 2023. So West Virginia's 2023 team was number 1 with 2,900 yards among so almost 3,000 yards rushing among Power 5 schools. That 2023 West Virginia team was the best rushing attack among Power 5 schools. Like, this is no slouch hire. I know a lot of y'all probably didn't know who Chad Scott was. He's coming from West Virginia. We don't have to watch West Virginia after leaving the Big 12. But number 1 among Power 5 schools in 2023 is elite. And then this year they were one of 2 FBS schools to have a backfield with 3 players rushing for at least 600 yards. So that was, there was Jaheim White, C.J. Donaldson, and I can't believe I'm blanking on their quarterback right now. Garrett Green, number 6. He could run too. So, I mean, you could see C.J. Baxter, Trey Wisner, Arch Manning bringing the rushing dynamic. We know Arch Manning, he could put up 500 yards rushing, right? So the fact that they were one of 2 schools to have 3 guys go over for 600 yards rushing in their backfield, I could see Texas, recreating that with Arch, Baxter, and also Trey Wisner. So yeah, props to Sark for hiring Chad Scott. This is a good, sneaky hire. A lot of people won't know him nationally, but they will in the next couple of years. And another big thing about Chad Scott is he was named the interim head coach after they let go Neil Brown. So that's just a big testament to his character. Like, his players loved him. They named him the head coach for the Frisco Bowl. And then after the fact, usually you gut staffs. When you come in, Rich Rod, if you remember, Rich Rodriguez is now back at West Virginia. The great Rich Rod, leaving. He was at Arkansas State. No, someone tell me where Rich Rod was. I forget. Rich Rod is now back at West Virginia. He's back home on the Appalachian Mountains. And Rich Rod hired him to be a part of his new staff. He didn't want to bring in his own guy. He didn't want to look for a new guy. He came to West Virginia, and he was one of the few guys he kept was Chad Scott, because he thought, hey, this guy is a high-level recruiter. And he was quoted saying he has a high level of energy. He's known for his development. And we see that with C.J. Donaldson, Jaheim White, Letty Brown in the past. Like, he's got good running backs. He said he's known for his development. He hired him onto his staff after taking over, which, again, is very rare. So Chad Scott, all in all, guys, that was a great hire. I'll be honest, I didn't know a ton about him before yesterday, but I was impressed to research him. It was cool to see that he was a Kentucky guy. Like I said, I grew up a Kentucky fan, so shout out to Chad. I don't remember him playing at Kentucky. That was in like the early 2000s. And then he transferred to UNC. But all in all, still pretty good hire, in my opinion. I think we'll be happy with the way the run game looks next year, especially with CJ Baxter coming back, guys. We expect the O-line to be a better run blocking team. And also, I just think the way that his group was so consistent at West Virginia, he never stalled out. I don't think you're going to have to worry about, hey, why did we just run for 40 yards against, no slight to Coach Choice, but why are we running for 40 yards against Arizona State? He has also had experience as a run game coordinator, so we'll see what Sark allows him to do and how his development is at Texas, but no shortage of talent in that running back room, and bringing in a good guy like Chad Scott, this will be a good group. I look forward to how the run game improves in 2025. But talking about 2025 and beyond, guys, I made my SEC power rankings. I hinted at this on the Tuesday night show, and I didn't get to it because, if you can't tell, I have a tendency to talk. Maybe that's why I have a microphone and no one else around me, and I'm doing the show by myself. But I do like to talk, if you could not tell. And while I am a yapper, sometimes it's good for this show. Other times I forget to get to my topics like SEC program power rankings. So I rated the programs, and my idea here is the next 3 to 5 years, right? Who are going to be the best programs in the SEC for the next 3 to 5 years? And so my criteria for this, I looked at NIL, location, and also the coach, the program, and their recruiting, and resources. So that's kind of my criteria. Who are going to be the best programs in the SEC for the next 3 to 5 years, kind of the rest of the 2020s. And I made my list. I just did top 10 because no offense to my Kentucky Wildcats guys, but if you're outside the top 10 in the SEC, why are we even talking about you, especially in the era of the 12-team playoff? So to start, guys, I broke it down by recruiting. At number 10, we put Auburn as my 10th best team in the SEC to power rate them. So I didn't bother rating the entire conference. I put Auburn at 10. So just to ramble off kind of their recruiting statistics, they obviously brought in Jackson Arnold, our beloved Jackson Arnold from our friends up north. We wish them well. We wish Jackson Arnold well. Now that he got out of Norman, good luck to you. He's playing with the alleged quarterback whisperer and Hugh Freeze. But Auburn probably should be a little bit better. Texas doesn't play them in the foreseeable future because that's how big the SEC is now, where you now do not play every team in your conference. What a wonderful world it is of modern college football. But Auburn has the 6th rated recruiting class this year. They were 8th the year before, 19th the year before that. So Auburn, watch out. They might make some noise on the plains if Kalen DeBoer can't get stuff together. But for now, if we're talking the next 3 or so years, Hugh Freeze has got to win this year, and they've got another brutal schedule. So we'll see if he's even there in 3 years. But in my program power rankings, I've got Auburn rounding out my top 10. And number 9, a lot of noise and buzz around this team, Florida. So Florida's recruiting well. They're going heavy into NIL. They've got a 10th recruiting class right now, 7th in 2024, and it was 13th in 2023. Sunbelt Billy, he recruits well. Billy Napier. The only problem with him, same as Hugh Freeze, guy might be gone. If they have a bad year this year, he might be gone. And I think their 8-5 season was kind of a fluke, and they put a lot of gas and energy into this season. And they squeaked out, upset wins against LSU and Ole Miss. Will they be able to duplicate that? I don't think so. And they've got another brutal schedule. I think DJ Lagway is overrated. I've said that before if you listen. Jaden Baugh is a good running back, but they also lost a lot of talent. They don't have receivers, kind of an unknown. Florida, the only thing I'm worried about is that Texas has to go to the swamp. Damn, I'm burping up a storm today, folks. Excuse me. I got to say, Shin up to those who tell me not to burp on camera. You know who you are. My mom, she tells me not to burp on camera. I think it humanizes me, guys. I got to burp on camera, even though I just drink water for whatever reason. I got to burp. But Florida, number 9. I think they're kind of overrated, in my opinion. Florida, the only thing you should be worried about is the fact that Texas has to play them in the swamp. And that's another one. They recruit well, have good resources. We'll see what they do. If Sunbelt Billy doesn't have a good year, Billy Napier doesn't have a good year, he's probably gone. He's going to lose a lot of that good grace that he gained by going 8-5 this year. And number 8, it's a shame to even give them this much light, guys, but I'm going to put A&M at number 8. Mike Elko, the big fella, our friends a little north of us, our beloved, our dear friends, the little brothers that are slightly to the northeast of us, if I'm good at geography. They have a 9th rated recruiting class, 16th last year. Before that, it was 10th. They're really not recruiting that well, guys. And the thing is with A&M, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it, right? I'll see it, and then I would believe it. They've only won 10 games once since I've even been alive, which is pretty funny for how much money they invest in the program. Can A&M win 10 games? I don't know, but I think they can go a consistent 8-5, 9-4, which, they're probably a top half of the conference if they're going 9-4. They got Marcel Reed back. They lost Noah Thomas, but they did bring in some good transfer talent. We'll see with A&M. Mike Elko was in his first year, went 8-5. That's kind of, the floor and the ceiling for A&M. It's just 8-5. They're right here, just pinballing between 8-5 and 8-5. But we wish them well, right, guys? We wish them well. Hopefully they can finally get to 10 wins. I don't think it'll happen next year, but I think right now, looking to the future, NIL, location, their coach. Elko's a good defensive coach. He's got a good program, good discipline. He's a solid recruiter. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll say they're a top 10 SEC program. Put them at number 8. Number 7, another funny character, Eli Drinkowitz. We know he likes to talk a lot of smack. When is Texas going to rematch with Missouri, guys? Let's get the old Big 12. We'll get an old Big 12 shootout going. We'd love to play Missouri again. They've got a new quarterback. They recruit all right. They're 14th this year, 21st last year. Before that, 32nd. Not great for Missouri. But I put them at 7th because they've just been consistent, guys. Hey, they had an off year. They still went 10-3. Like, they were not that competitive this year. They still went 10-3. Somehow, even though there's no more divisions, SEC East is gone. Missouri still gets a lucky draw. They had no one on their schedule. Went 10-3. They're good with NIL. They recruit solidly. They get a couple 5-stars every class, it seems, or, multiple 4-stars. And Drinkowitz knows how to develop talent, it seems. They did lose a lot, but for the next 3 years, I assume he's going to stay there. That's the thing. They'll let him stay, whereas he won't have the pressure of like a Hugh Freeze or a Billy Napier at Florida. They're not going to fire him because the standards are way lower. So I think he'll continue to develop players and recruit solidly, probably pull off a couple upsets here and there. I mean, there's no reason to think he won't be an 8-9 win team every year, the way it's trending for them. And Ole Miss at number 6. Now, Ole Miss is like, who knows with Ole Miss, right? Because they've had the number 2 transfer portal class this year. Last year was the number 1 transfer portal class. Famously, the year before that was the number 2 transfer portal class. They went 11-2. This year they went 10-3. A couple years back, they went 10-3. They've won 10 games 3 out of the last 4 seasons. Like, Ole Miss has been trending in the right direction. The only thing is Mississippi's not a hotbed for recruiting. They recruited 15th best class this year, 17th last year, and the year prior, 17th as well. They recruit in the teens, which can be good enough to compete for a national title if you look at Michigan and Washington, right? If you develop right and portal in right. The thing is they portaled an offensive line this year, and it doesn't really work because they don't congeal when you have an offensive line from the portal primarily because you need those offensive linemen to get reps. They are getting a couple 5-stars now. I mean, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, he's building something there. It's just like, will they be able to sustain it now that you're rebuilding from Jackson Dart? Are they going to drop back down to like an 8-5 team? Or is he going to, stay high now that the way they portal in? Can he still be a 10-win team? If he's still a 10-win team, then Ole Miss could rise through the ranks and be, a top 4 to 5 program in the SEC. But right now, I kind of have them behind a lot of these teams just because of recruiting and resources and the unknown of losing Dart and Trey Harris and all these guys. Up next, I've got LSU, and LSU is at number 5. So LSU is kind of an unknown, guys, because Brian Kelly went 9-4 this year. He's never won more than 10 games, which is good. He's been winning 10 games every year, it seems, at LSU, but he also loses every first game of the season, it seems. And the thing with Brian Kelly, man, is he's got to kind of make it work, right, this year with Brian Kelly. I would love to see Texas play LSU again. That was so fun when LSU came to Austin in 2019, and Sam Ehlinger gave Joe Burrow a run for his money, played him right down to the wire. That was a great game. And then, unfortunately, that Texas team was not the team we thought they would be that year because of injuries. But, LSU has recruited the 7th best class this year, the 9th best class last year, and the year before that, the 4th best class. So they're always going to recruit in the top 10. They've got NIL. It depends how much they're willing to invest. And if Brian Kelly has a pop year, he needs to have another SEC title run, maybe win an SEC title. He needs to at least make the playoff. And then in the 12-team era, that's not too much to ask. LSU could rise and be the 2nd best team on this list in 3 years in the program power rankings, or they could drop down to 8 because if Brian Kelly gets fired, they're going to have to rebuild. LSU is, and that's kind of fitting for Louisiana. I mean, that place, they've got the dark arts are strong in the Bayou. They've got a lot of voodoo magic and stuff like that. I think they're sort of a go rich or bust kind of team, bang or bust sort of. They either could win a national title in the next 3 years, or they could have a new coach. Like that LSU, that's fitting for Louisiana. If you've been there, there's a creepy air in the sky around there. There's some sort of magic, good or bad, in Louisiana. They're casting spells for sure. We'll see if it works out for them at LSU. And next, guys, number 4, I put the fake UT, also known as Tennessee. Tennessee, I put at 4. They recruit actually similarly to like an Ole Miss. They were the 11th best class, 13th best class last year, and 11th best class the year before that. They recruit pretty well. Josh Heupel's actually like a really good coach. The fact that he's now won double-digit games 2 of the last 3 years, you could say the same thing for Lane Kiffin. But Tennessee, I put them at 4 because I just think Josh Heupel's a really good coach. He is a great play caller. And if Nico takes the next step and starts throwing accurate passes and not missing deep balls, Tennessee could be dicey. They could be a team that takes a leap over an LSU in terms of programs, is able to maybe jump Bama if Bama slides, if DeBoer can't get it going in terms of recruiting and finding a great quarterback. Tennessee is definitely a team to look out for. Still the fake UT in my book. And I don't like them because I'm also a Kentucky fan. But I have to rate him fairly. Heupel, good coach. I mean, he's done a lot with that program and really brought them back to national relevance in terms of competing. And next, Alabama at number 3. Alabama, I think Kalen DeBoer is the best coach in football still. People forget because they went 9-4. But Kalen DeBoer has an insane record at Washington, Fresno State, and Sioux Falls or wherever. I don't know how Sioux Falls. I've never been to South Dakota. No offense to the Dakotas. I know the Mount Rushmore is there. I need to go. But I don't know. Sioux Falls, that might be it. I think he coached at Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But that's FCS. He was a beast. Kalen DeBoer, such a great coach, great game planner. I think he's an absolute genius. You guys know, I mean, Texas played Washington twice. We don't need to talk about what happened there. DeBoer gets it rolling. They've got the 4th rated class this year. They were the 2nd best class last year. The first class before then, that of course was with Nick Saban. Man, I ran out of water and it's getting to me, guys. But yeah, Bama, they could still be dangerous, but they're another one. If DeBoer doesn't make it work, recruiting could get worse. He could lose guys in the portal like he did last year. If this Austin Mack guy is not a good quarterback, Ty Simpson, we'll see if he pans out. There's a lot of talk about him, but he's yet to play at this point. They still have Ryan Williams. So we will see with Alabama. But if DeBoer gets it rolling, guys, with all those resources, all that NIL, the guy almost won a title at freaking Washington recruiting in the 30s and 40s. So, yeah, I'd be a little nervous about Bama still. Let's not forget about them. And now our top 2, I think we all know who it is. They were clear, head and shoulders above of the rest of the conference this year. But at number 2, guys, I've got Texas. The reason I've got Texas at 2, they haven't beaten Georgia, obviously. Kirby and Georgia are going to continue to invest NIL at, down in Athens. And they had the number 1 recruiting class last year, 3 recruiting class this year, the number 2 recruiting class in 2023. But let's just stick to Texas. The reason I've got Texas at 2, guys, I think for the next 3 to 5 years, Texas is the top or, right there in the SEC. They are one of the teams to beat in this conference for the next 3 to 5 years. One is Arch Manning, obviously. The number 1 recruiting class coming in. Last year, they had the number 5 recruiting class. There goes my light, which pretended didn't turn off. Last year, they had the number 5 recruiting class, number 3 recruiting class the year before that. I mean, Sark has just been building a monster at Texas, guys. Building an absolute monster. So, I mean, I think Texas could be number 1 on this list. We'll see. I just have to see to believe it. And I think this year going to Athens, I don't think Texas is going to beat Georgia on the road. That'll probably be a night game. That'll be a hard one to win, guys. Different kind of atmosphere than Texas is used to. And I know that sounds absurd, but they're going to play at Ohio State, and that'll be an 11 a.m. kick. Going at Georgia, I think Kirby kind of has Sark's number right now. That's why I put Kirby at the top, because he's still won 2 titles. He's the only guy who, he's one of like 3 guys who have won titles and are still coaching. Most of the coaches have yet to win national championships. We saw Ryan Day become a first-time champion. But Kirby and Dabo, you got to respect winning, right? Kirby's a winner. Like, whether you like him or not, they walked into our house. They beat us. They beat us with a backup quarterback. You've got to put respect on Georgia's name. But to just talk about Texas, I mean, Texas with their NIL, their location, the fact that Sark is hitting his prime, it feels like he's really hitting stride there. And now you're bringing in Arch Manning, the recruiting. They're also number 1 or 2 in NIL investment. That's same with Georgia. All these teams are high in NIL investment. But if you look at the list right now, it's like Texas puts in the most. Then it's like Ohio State, then Georgia, I believe. So these are your teams that are going to always be in the top 4 to 5 teams in the country and probably the top 3 in the SEC. That's how good the SEC is if, you can be the number 2 team in the country and you're not even the best team in the SEC, right? But, yeah, I mean, Texas, great right now. They've got the brand power. They're kind of like the new USC, in my opinion. All the celebrities are coming out. The recruiting is great. It just seems like everything's happening here in Austin, and Sark is the perfect guy to lead this charge and lead Texas in, through this NIL era and this playoff era. He's a great leader. I'm just surprised at how it seems like he's a veteran coach when really he sort of bounced around and he's just finally found his footing. And it seems like he's a seasoned veteran with how good he runs the culture. But yeah, we'll talk more about Texas and once I finish this list here. Obviously, we know who's at number 1, Georgia, of course. I put them there. Like I said, the 3rd recruiting class this year, 1st the year before, 2nd the year before that. They still won the SEC, guys, and this was a down year for Georgia. As much as I dislike Georgia, they 2-0 against Texas. I need to see Sark beat Kirby to believe it, to be honest. Kirby really schemed Sark's offense. Like the fact that Sark can't run the ball against Kirby is very concerning. Really couldn't move the ball too well. The offense has not looked great in 2 games against Kirby Smart. So those are my power rankings, guys. Feel free to call in. Tell me where I'm wrong. To go back through the list, we had Auburn at 10. We had Florida at 9. We had A&M at 8. That's too high. We had Missouri at 7. Ole Miss at 6. At 5, we had LSU. At 4, we had the fake UT. At 3, we had Bama. At 2, I had Texas. And at number 1, Georgia. I think you've got to beat them to then be able to usurp them in program rankings, because I don't think Kirby is going anywhere in terms of recruiting and competing for a national title. But yeah, guys, go ahead and call in. Let me know what you think about my power rankings, and we'll get some of your opinions. Let me know what you're feeling on my rankings. We can go ahead and bring in our first caller to talk about our SEC power rankings. We got Omar Little back on the show. Omar, are you there?
Yeah, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you feeling? How you feeling about those SEC power rankings?
Man, I think they're a load of crap if I'm being honest with you. I got a couple points I want to say, but sorry, I'm in my car picking up some takeout or whatever. I'm heading back. So if there's any struggle on the mic or whatever, that's what it's from. The first I want to say, I'm originally from Tennessee, and as much as I hate the University of Tennessee, you said something that ruffled my feathers, calling Tennessee the fake UT. I don't know how much you know. I don't know how much you know about U.S. history, James, but the University of Tennessee was a thing about 60, 65 years before the state of Texas was.
Oh, Omar, you there?
And
second off,
Omar, I would like to say, huh?
You cut out. What'd you say? The state of Tennessee was what?
The state of Tennessee, I mean, the University of Tennessee, as much as I do hate them, was a university about 65 years before Texas, the state of Texas, was a thing. Just a university. So, I mean, I don't know if you know history, buddy, but that was Comanche land at that time. And something else I also want to bring up is I just think it's beautiful. A boy that went to Baylor commenting on SEC and all this. And the fact that you had Ole Miss as at the number 6 spot is absolutely crazy, man. You even said it yourself. I want to see Sark beat Kirby. I want to see Sark beat Kirby. Buddy, Lane did that. He beat the dog breaks off of him this year. What are you talking about? Like, and I mean, there's so many points I can bring up on today's show. I mean, like I'll admit when we lost, y'all beat us in baseball the other day, but I didn't know if this was inside Texas or inside Texas football, because this is the basis of the whole Texas fan base. It seems like y'all are all some fair weather ass fans, and you don't care about any other sport other than football because you're cooking right now. And you talk to any Texas fan, they don't talk about basketball, baseball, whatever, unless they're cooking. I'm kind of fed up with all of it. That's what I got to say. And I think the fact that you have Ole Miss at the number 6 spot is crazy. I think Ole Miss is cooking in the SEC, and I think they should be ranked higher than Tennessee personally. And I don't think it's crazy to say that they shouldn't be a top 3 or 4 spot. Name one team. Name one team that played Ole Miss this year that dominated them. Did they lose by more than 7 or 14 points? They were all one-score games, James. They were all,
Can you
okay,
see your
one-score
camera?
games, brother. They
Can
didn't
you see your
dominate.
camera?
Kentucky didn't dominate that game.
Yeah,
Kentucky
they
did
lost
not.
to
Any way
4
you
and 8
take that,
Kentucky,
Kentucky
dude.
did not dominate that
4 and
game.
8 Kentucky, who didn't win a game after beating Ole Miss. That was a
Hey,
bad,
all right,
bad
well,
loss.
I'm not saying we didn't lose, James. I'm saying name a team that we lost to by more than one. Every game we lost to was a one-score game. Ole Miss, and it is ridiculous that you're gonna smut our name like that. I can't even believe you right now.
Putting Ole Miss at 6. I mean, 6th in the SEC is still a 10-win team most years.
That
And
is
I'm
such
saying
a
this.
slap in the face.
And here's the thing, Omar. I'm saying this in the next 3 to 5 years, projecting the program, right? Are we going to say, like, what's the best year Lane's had? 11-2, right? Is Lane going to pump out 11-2 years every year? Ole Miss is a build-up program. It's not a reload program. You can't be a reload program when you have the 15th best recruiting class.
Brother,
aren't
also,
like
hold up.
Texas
You
or
got to
Georgia
take into
or
account.
Alabama.
You got to take into account these that you said did 10, 11 win seasons. You got to take into account. We've been playing in the SEC, big dog. This is y'all's first year here. Like, yeah, y'all are on the up and ups and everything, and this is great for y'all, even though technically you went to Baylor and you're a Baylor fan or whatever. But I mean, y'all are in the ups and ups. We've been in the SEC every year, and before we were doing these goofy ass schedules, we played Alabama every year. We played LSU every year. We played Georgia about every other year. We played the dogs of the dogs, dog. And that's why, and we were still pumping out like 9-win, 10-win seasons. It's ridiculous. The fact that you're going to throw Ole Miss at 6, I'm sure you have other callers, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. Still, I'm a huge fan of the show. I love what you do, James, but I seriously disagree with this point.
Yeah. Hey, Omar, I never want to cut you off. I love what you have to say, but hey, you got to look at the comments. They're making some good points. Texas went to the SEC championship year 1.
That's what I literally said. Y'all are cooking, and I'm proud for you. But I mean, those are all fair weather fans, bro. They couldn't tell you who your closer for your pitch, who your closing pitcher is for the baseball team this year. They couldn't tell you who the 6th man for the basketball team is this year. That's just how it is.
Omar, you guys have a pretty good basketball team. Can you name 2 Ole Miss basketball players right now on this show?
Me?
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, but I don't want to dignify that. I don't want to dignify that statement. That was a disgusting statement to even assume I wouldn't know 2 players. I don't even want to justify that with a response.
Oh,
With that, I want to say I'm a huge fan of the show, James. You got great content pumping out there. Just disagreed with one of your takes today. It's all love.
Yeah, no, it's fun, Omar. Appreciate you calling in.
All right, have a good one, brother.
You as well, man. How about Omar Ball or Omar Little? Sorry. If you don't know, that is a character from The Wire. So that is obviously not Omar's real name there. Omar Little, if y'all don't remember, he called in last week. About Matthew McConaughey, and that led to an interesting exchange. Yeah. And see, this is a good point from our boy DKW, David Keith Williams, always with good comments. Ole Miss was tied for 4th in 2024. Look at their trajectory. I put them at 6th, guys. I could see them as the 5th best team in the SEC. But if Ole Miss ever has a year where they're even in the SEC championship game, they can't, like Texas, be grateful, like Texas, like Alabama, like, man, I need more water. I need to get myself an intern or something, but I'm already an intern, but we need to find me an intern who gets paid even less than me. But so the thing is Alabama, Georgia, Texas now can just flip a switch, and Texas will probably at least win 10 games next year, right? Definitely. The expectation is at least 10 games, and they probably will surpass that mark, I would imagine. They'll probably be back in the playoff if we were to bet. Maybe next year's not a national title contending team, seriously, but I think, in the next couple years, they will be in a national title game. But Ole Miss can't do that. That is the unfortunate circumstance of college football is, a lot of it's just a resource game, guys. It's a resource game. And some schools like Ole Miss, they have to build up their program. They have to, transfer, develop players. Jackson Dart in his prime. But they don't just routinely bring in another 5 and 4-star O-line. They transfer in an O-line and they build up for a year and then they make their run, kind of like Washington did a couple years ago when they made it to the title, or kind of like TCU when they made that miraculous run to the title. But yeah, hey, nobody had a beef with me putting Texas at 2. I appreciate that. I think we know Georgia. You got Georgia still the top dogs. You got to give them that. But I want to, talk a little bit about my ranking of Texas. I think they're 1 or 2. It's 1A and 1B. If they beat Georgia, I think they will surpass Georgia. I mean, there is a void right now, a dynasty void from Saban being gone that someone can fill. And I think there's no reason Texas couldn't be like Georgia did or Clemson did and rattle off 2 titles in the span of 3 to 4 years, right? They have all the resources. They've got the NIL. They've got the location. And like I said earlier, they kind of are like this new swaggy team, like USC-esque, where celebrities want to come to the games. You remember when they played Georgia? Granted, they did whoop our ass on live television, national TV game of the week. But, KD was there. Devin Booker was there. McConaughey, we know he's always there as much as Omar Little doesn't like him. McConaughey's always there. All these other stars. I'm not a big celebrity guy myself, but there was other people. I can't remember. Rogan was there. Joe Rogan, the new king of Austin. But all these people were there. Like Austin just has a buzz, man. It's got a buzz to it. And I think that does help in the recruiting. These kids they want to be a part of the stardom or part of the show. And the fact that they have that brand power, there's no reason Texas couldn't get another number 1 recruiting class, guys. First number 1 recruiting class in 15 years. I think that'll become the norm. Top 3 recruiting classes are going to become the norm in Austin. Like Sark has positioned Texas to the point in this position. Like, be grateful, guys. Like, let's count our lucky chickens. I think that's an expression. But they've positioned themselves where, like, with Arch Manning and this brand, Texas is set up to be a top 3 team in the national picture every single year. We got one more caller that just loaded in. Let me bring in this last caller, and then I will close this out talking about Arch Manning, talking about Texas as a program. Let's just go ahead and bring Terry. He's an Auburn fan, so we'll see what he says. We just had our Ole Miss fan call in. Terry, you're on the horn. Can you hear me?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, Terry. How you doing?
Man, just got out of my workout.
What do you do? What do you do? What'd you do tonight, Terry?
I did back and buys. That's why mine look bigger than yours.
Why don't you show us someday, huh?
I will. But hey, listen, I'm not gonna argue with you about Auburn. I'm done arguing. You're probably gonna pull up some of your nerd stats on me, so I'm just gonna leave it be. But I will say, just like you said, everyone wants to be part of the show in Austin. Everyone wants to be in Austin. It's awesome. I think, honestly, that's going to slowly hurt y'all. I mean, look, soft Sark is already, taking off spring games. Like, y'all are turning into a soft team. And if y'all don't get a hold of that soon, y'all are going to backslide hard. I think, at least. I mean, I know my coach, Hugh was hard. Pause. Oh. Yeah, he knows what game ready. Like, I just don't know what y'all are doing with the whole, not playing a spring game. It's mind-boggling.
Are you guys you're still playing your spring game? Is there no talk about canceling it?
He would never.
He's a physical brand of ball he plays out there on the plans? Yes,
dude. I mean, honestly, I think Sark should sign up for Sarkastball if he's not going to play a spring game.
Sarkastball? Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that a little bit. There's no doubt that Texas does not fit into the SEC mold at all. It does feel a little Hollywoody, which Hollywood-esque, where I think it might be cool for the next few years. But if Sark leaves and goes to the NFL, it might not be ideal for the future of Texas. In all honesty, going sort of this Hollywood route, when Georgia came into town and kind of gave him a good old-fashioned whooping, and Kirby was a good old Southern boy on his post-game press conference. He felt like he was going to L.A. the way he was talking about Austin and Sark and Texas and saying they're kind of like Hollywood, glitz and glamour and all this stuff.
Can you say he's wrong?
Yeah, I mean, when you get away from the blue-collar brand of football, I don't necessarily like it. I do agree with your point a little bit there, because if you go look at, if you remember 2005, Terry, when Texas beat USC, I watched old clips, and it was Mac Brown talking about, hey, they're Hollywood. We're from Texas. We're country. We play tough football and all this. And it's now
what happened to that? What happened to that?
There's a good point there. Now it is more of a glitz and glamour and flash and showmanship, and that works though. It worked for USC. It's just how sustainable would it be if, say, Sark leaves? Would the program be in good hands the next, for the predecessor? I don't know.
No, it's not gonna be good at all. I mean, I don't think y'all can ride around your Lambos all you want, but I mean, I see y'all's your grit meter's at an all-time low. So I think y'all just gotta figure it out. Take the Lambo keys away. Play in the mud for some practices.
And
I don't know. Like John Gruden would not be doing this to y'all's team. I'm just saying that. He's the toughest coach I know.
Yeah. How tough is Hugh Freeze with the 5-7 record, huh?
I don't want to talk about it. It's all about grit. It's all about heart. Wins and losses don't matter. Ted Lasso said that, even though he's a little soft in the belly too. But, I mean, yeah, you can talk about it all you want. I'm just saying.
Hey, how about Terry quoting Ted Lasso for us on the show today?
Yeah, man. Big fan of the show. I mean, I did cry a few times watching it.
Oh, you did now?
I did.
What parts got you?
I would say Ted Lasso talking about his dad, but you know what? That's a story for another day. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
thanks for calling in as always, Terry. I appreciate you not getting mad at me like our Ole Miss fan did. Thank you.
I figured I'd take it easy on you after that.
Yeah, I mean, he gave me an earful, but also I appreciate you being reasonable. Like, hey, we got to see if Hugh Freeze can prove it out at Auburn.
Yeah, man, appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you as always, Terry. No, another interesting caller, another SEC foe calling in with their opinions, whether right or wrong. Will be interesting what you guys think about that. If Texas has gone Hollywood, it is a fun concept to think about. I'm sort of an old school, gritty football player. I love Midwest. Well, I called myself a football player. I was a basketball player, but I'm a gritty fan. I like the Midwest, grind it out. I love Big Ten football. I love old SEC football. I mean, it does feel like Austin, being from here, has gone a little bit more. I mean, shoot, look at the skyline. If you guys aren't from here and you're from other parts of Texas, Austin feels like a major city now. I mean, there aren't a lot of successful programs in major cities. That is an honest statement. I'm not, arguing in bad faith when I say that. We'll see where it goes. I mean, this is an unprecedented time in college football. But the thing is also now it kind of, benefits these bigger programs in these big cities like a USC. Imagine Pete Carroll at USC in his prime if they had NIL. We know Reggie Bush would still have his Heisman, right? Well, he got it back eventually. But that is a fun thing to think about. Just, do you think that Hollywood, people have always talked about Southern ball versus West Coast ball, right? People always like to make fun of how they play football on the West Coast because they're soft. They don't have calluses on their hands. They're a little more Hollywood. Austin's turning into that a little bit, being it's a tech city now. I don't know how much that'll affect Sark's teams because he recruits so well, and they are physical. They are big. It would be nice to see them use that to their advantage and run it up the gut more on teams when they play against other big teams like Ohio State and Georgia, to get that confidence where they don't feel like they have to be cute. They just punch it up the gut, and beat the hell out of the other team and outman them. He probably wishes he did on the what was it, that the first and goal from the one. I'm sure he wishes he played bully ball there. It would be nice for him to get a little more physical in games and run it up teams' throats and push it up to the second level and have better run blocking. Would love to see that. But back to my point of why, Texas, I think, is in position to honestly be the top team in the SEC. Like I said, if Arch Manning walks into Athens, make me a clown, tell me I'm wrong and that I shouldn't have rated Georgia as a better program than Texas right now. But if he walks into Athens and walks out with a win, guys, Texas is the best program in the SEC, in my opinion. Because if they go and do that, they're probably going to win the conference. Which, how amazing would it be? As much as they talk crap, like that Ole Miss fan that just called in, like Terry just called in, these SEC programs, Texas hasn't really played the SEC schedule. They're not a real SEC program. If they walk through the SEC again and get back to Atlanta, what the hell are they going to say then? Really, what the hell are you going to say then? This year it was they got off easy on the schedule. We'll see next year. They got to go to Athens. All right, let's not count our chickens before they hatch. That's the expression. But yeah, so Texas, why I think they could be the best team in the SEC in the next 3 to 5 years, the rest of the 2020s, why they could be the new Alabama of the SEC, the new Georgia, is they're top 5 in NIL, guys. They're top 5 in recruiting. They're top 3, frankly, in everything. Number 1 in some in NIL and recruiting this year, right? They're great in the portal. They spend a ton in the NIL in the portal. That On3 graphic came out the other day that Texas was one of the biggest spenders in the portal in recent history. But yeah, guys, Arch Manning too. We're not going to pretend that's not a factor. I'm not just saying that for the algorithm. Arch Manning, as much as that helps the engagement. Arch Manning, Sark, recruiting, all of these things build towards an elite team, build towards being the number one team in the SEC, the team that people are trying to beat. Texas is frankly that team for 90% of the conference, except for, let's be honest, except for Georgia right now. But Arch Manning, guys, like, let's just enjoy Arch Manning. Like, the fact that they even got him there, how big of a story that was, bringing in Arch Manning, perfect 5-star number one quarterback in the country. That was a huge win for Texas. That was a statement, recruit, along with Quinn Ewers, but that was a transfer. That was a huge one, too. That was like the start of the Sark. Then bringing in Arch, it was like the build off of that. That was huge, guys. And that Arch is finally in his first year starting. Let's not put too much expectations on the kid. We see that he's a Heisman front runner, or second in the Heisman odds behind Garrett Nussmeier. Just be happy with what Arch provides next year, guys. I mean, he's played bright in this limited action he has had, but there's going to be some growing pains. There will be. He's 20 years old, or he's not even 20 years old yet. He will be 20 years old next year. It'll be his first year starting. Well, it'll be his third year in the program. There will be some growing pains. I don't expect next year to be the year. Like I said, I don't think they're going to go into Athens and win. That's my prediction. Let me be wrong. Right? But if, Texas in the next couple of years with Arch Manning is what he's supposed to be, I think you're looking at a national title. That's my honest opinion. They've got all the ingredients. Now you just got to bake the cake. You've got all the ingredients. Just bake the cake, put the icing on top. That's winning your national championship, right? You've got a great program in the oven. Now you just got to take it out and you got to put the finishing touches on it. I've been talking for an hour 15. I'm out of water, guys. You're going to mess some words up. But yeah, the expectations for Arch, it's year one, so let's just enjoy it, guys. He's a huge recruit. Now, let's not do the Heisman talk yet, as much as, you will on social media and stuff, and just BSing around, the water cooler with your friends or at the lunch table with your friends, and if you're still in school. Let's not expect him to actually win a Heisman yet. I think that's a year two starter goal for him. And next year is a tough schedule, right? But I think he fits this schedule, this roster well. And like I was talking about with Chris Scott coming in, right? Or Chad Scott, sorry. With Chad Scott coming in, the quarterback run game he had with Garrett Green going. He's been a run game coordinator before, but even just the running back room will be elevated next year, I believe. And Sark said today in an interview that he's going to run read option. He's going to run more zone read. Because now that's a total dynamic that was never there with Quinn Ewers. We love Quinn Ewers, but you're not running a zone read with Quinn Ewers. Arch came to the point where it was a 16-wheeler package. The freaking, he came in as a wildcat quarterback, which who would predict that with a Manning? So, I think he really fits this roster and this offense great. There's going to be so much more points of attack for Texas, ways that they can get you as a defense. So it'll be interesting. And with CJ Baxter back, it helps the running backs for sure in the run game that you have a scrambling quarterback, an athletic quarterback. A threat in the run game is just the main key, especially when Quinn got hurt, guys. When Quinn got hurt, he was no athletic threat whatsoever to opposing defenses, right? Not a threat whatsoever to opposing defenses. So that's something that'll be factored in, guys. It'll make CJ Baxter's job better. If Trey Wisner's getting shut down like he was against Ohio State, against Arizona State, against Georgia a couple times they played him, you then can bring in Arch, and it creates a new dynamic where they don't know where you're going with the run game. And Arch is a serious threat. He's 6'4", he's 220. We saw him bust a 65-yard run against UTSA. The guy's got wheels. So Arch is a specimen. He's quarterback build. He's got quarterback face. The guy looks like a quarterback. Broad shoulders, runner. Arch is the prototype quarterback, and it's not just because he's a Manning, guys. And the fact that he is immobile is great. He also throws bombs. So, as much as people say Arch throws bombs for the meme, he does throw bombs, and they'll probably take more deep shots. We know there was all the talk about Quinn Ewers' A-dot, his average depth of target. He was taking all the short routes, underneath routes. They weren't really going deep. Ryan Wingo's going to develop more. Ryan Wingo will go over the top. We know he likes DeAndre Moore, right? These guys will be going over the top. Look for Khalil Lockett maybe to get some run. Jamie French to get some run. We're going to have some speedy guys on the outside. might finally develop a number one target. That would be nice, right? I mean, Isaiah Bond unfortunately got hurt too much this year, but Arch, I think, look for them to take more shots, and that also helps you have quarterback run. You have read option. You'll have a better running game with CJ Baxter back. That I think it'll set up the over-the-top shots. Play action will hit harder than it used to, right? I think just the offense will be much more open, probably much more free. Hopefully the red zone percentages will improve. God forbid the red zone percentages improve, right? But I just think Arch is perfect for this system. We've heard a lot of talk about it. We'll know for sure when August 30th rolls around in about 6 months here. And believe me, we'll be talking about it every week leading up to it. But yeah, I mean, that's just Texas is in a good position, guys. If Arch is what we expect him to be and fits this offense in the next 2 years, you could see. And then the transfer of power from him to a KJ Lacey or a Dia Bell or even Trey Owens, for example, who looked great in last year's spring game, RIP spring games. We loved them. I did, at least. I know some of you might think it's a good thing they ended them, but Trey Owens played great in last year's spring game. There's expectations he'll be pretty good. I mean, the next quarterback, the situation will probably be good. You go from Arch to, Dia Bell or Trey Owens or whoever, right? KJ Lacey. I mean, there's no reason Texas doesn't jump up to the number one program in the SEC. I think they're in good hands. And if they win a title, though, the only worry I would have is that Sark then makes that jump to the NFL like a Jim Harbaugh. But hopefully, God forbid, they don't have any Connor Stallion scandals when he leaves, like Jim Harbaugh, which might have influenced his leaving. But I do think Sark will probably end up back in the NFL, especially if he wins a title. That's the only thing that would hamper Texas, because then you'd have to kind of reset. But for now, next 3, 4, 5 years, Texas is 1 or 2 in the SEC. Like, mark your calendar. I said it. Mark my words. They will be 1A or 1B for the next couple seasons in the SEC. I'm excited for it. You should be too. Like, man, DBU's back in Austin, it feels like. Wide receiver recruiting is great. And who doesn't want to play with Arch Manning? Because he'll probably start for at least a couple years. Things are good, guys. It's not all bad. Sorry if you're mad that I rated Texas is the number 2 program in the SEC. I'm sorry. I hope I'm wrong. But as of now, can't put them over Georgia yet. But all those things I listed are bright spots and why we should be really excited about next year and what Arch brings. And, I mean, 2025 is going to be great. But I think 2026 and beyond is where Texas will make that run for an Alabama and a Georgia type of throne, right? So get excited and stay tuned into Inside Texas, guys, because we're going to be covering it all along the way. No better place to get your information. We break all sorts of stories like the one that happened today with the spring game. Make sure to subscribe, y'all. Follow Inside Texas on anywhere you have social media. Follow me at Jamerson Hayden, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. I'm going to start posting more content, trying to develop my personal brand now. I'm new into the industry, obviously, but guys, give us a follow. Come hang out with me on the Inside Texas Instagram and Twitter, TikTok as well. Post great stuff on there. And just make sure to subscribe. Please like this video, share this video. Doesn't do anything for us, it doesn't do anything to you. It just helps us out. It's free. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't send you any that soon. But yeah, subscribe, like the video, share it. Thank you for coming along again. I'm navigating my way through producing and hosting. But thank you very much. God bless. You have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend.